Hello and welcome to the second season of Gerety Talks. My name is Huei and I am the co-founder of the Gerety Awards, the award redefining creative benchmarks by showing the value of the female vision in advertising. Today we travel to Australia to learn more about the Aunties, and we welcome Phoebe Sloane, creative at Special in Melbourne. Hi.
Hello, thanks for coming up.
Sarah McGregor, ECD at Communicado in Melbourne as well. Hi, Sarah, welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
And Huei Wong, Senior Art Director at Clemenger, BBDO. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining. And yeah, we're going to talk about the Aunties. Look out, world, the Aunties are here. You have launched the Aunties, so please tell us about it.
Yes, we are. The Aunties have entered the building, which is pretty exciting. And I guess a little bit about who we are. The Aunties is a program that aims to inspire, protect, and champion women of all ages and backgrounds across creative industries. And we do this sort of through tailored mentorships. So we will match up a mentee with a specific auntie according to sort of their discipline and also their interests. And we also will be hosting seminars and also networking events as well. And yeah, we wanted to create a support system that kind of brings women in our community together to kind of look out for each other and to feel sort of connected. And we're a little bit different to existing programs out there because we are very proud to be for industry women at all stages of their lives and career. So we hope to provide mentorships and support to women entering the industry. So for those that are kind of post-university and trying to sort of find their way a little bit, we'll also have aunties for those in mid to senior roles. So look at sort of stepping up into leadership positions, as well as sort of having like a leaders and a founders category as well. And if you kind of don't fit any of those categories, we will find an auntie for you as well. So we're very much sort of trying to sort of be for women at all stages of their lives and careers. And in particular, we're very, very proud to be sort of matching up industry mums with other mums. And I think we're one of the first programs in the world in advertising to be doing this. So we're very, very proud and excited for this to roll out.
Okay. And why did you call it the Aunties?
Yeah, so our name, the Aunties, actually pays tribute to someone here in Melbourne who's an advertising legend, Esther Clarahan, who's been a mentor to countless women throughout the decades that she's resided here. It's also, a term of endearment that we can all relate to. When you have an auntie, it's someone that's not your parent or not your sibling per se, but someone you can go to for advice whenever you need to. Any woman that's kind of come up through the ranks here in Melbourne has had a direct relationship with Esther. And in Esther's own words, she says she's this sort of naughty aunt that just pops up, drops in some advice, and then disappears off again.
That's cool. And how many applications did you receive in your first call for mentorship?
We were really blown away with the number of responses we received. We had 82 mentees that we paired in our first program that's just launched with 82 aunties. So we had copywriters, art directors, strategists, client managers, designers, PR professionals. We even have a costume designer. It's such a great it's such a great cross section of our industry, and the applications were so amazing to read. We all got together and had a glass of champagne and did it in person, and everyone wrote the most beautiful responsive. They were so thoughtful and impressive, and it was so incredible to see so many women doing really great things. We have so much hope for the next generation with women like these kind of leading the way and mentoring the next generation. So it was really, really cool.
Great. And for the moment, it is a local initiative, but I read you have ambitions to expand offshore. So what are the next steps and what are your plans for the future?
Absolutely. No, we have every intention for Aunties world domination. Don't worry. We're very, very excited. But we've been so thrilled with just the response. We've sort of launched here in Melbourne, and we've just been so thrilled at sort of, I guess, the response we've received, and just sort of, I guess, how far and wide the sort of the demand and the enthusiasm is for the aunties. And we've had women from LA, South Africa, New York and New Zealand reach out to offer to be aunties and to help set up in their respective cities. So we're very, very excited and inspired for sort of what's to come next year. We are currently running, as Sarah mentioned, the very first part of our program here in Melbourne, and we're sort of yet to roll out the next kind of chapter early this year. And there's sort of so much sort of learning and refining that we're kind of, I guess there's sort of a lot of learning, and we're kind of refining our model as we go. So we want to make sure when we do expand that we have all the tools, we have all the resources in place to hand over. So next up will be Sydney. We think that will happen kind of mid this year, so around sort of July. And once we've kind of learned, I think, from that sort of handover and that transition, we'll be ready to have offshore aunties. So very excited. We have every ambition to sort of widen our network around the world. And, if you have an auntie here in Melbourne and you move over to London in the future, you could maybe have one over there too. And we just want to make sure we expand, and we'll be able to have this amazing support system of women in all pockets of the world. And we can't wait.
World domination, here we come.
Offshore aunties sounds really cool, I have to say. I like that. And do you think your career would have changed if you had had an initiative like this at that time?
Yeah, for sure. For me, on many different levels. So I am a woman of color in the creative department, and as of yet, in my 7 years of working in the industry, I have yet to meet someone else who is a woman of color in the creative department. I also didn't study advertising, so I think maybe it's a Melbourne thing, but a lot of the people here went to university for advertising, and I studied design, which is like adjacent, but not exactly the same. But I remember starting out in my first job just being like completely clueless, and like kind of being shy to also ask the questions that perhaps may show me as being naive or something like that. So I think I wasted a lot of time when I was younger, just like being filled with self-doubt and, just from, being young, but also staring from the other side of the agency in, being like, how do I do this job? It's already so full of smoke and mirrors. So I think if I had an auntie back then, if I could look back at myself and talk to my younger version, I think it would be really helpful and would have saved me a lot of, a lot of time.
It's such a true thing that you say about the smoke and mirrors. I think you come out of university and you're not really sure if, everyone's telling you stuff that you didn't know, and you feel a bit silly and a bit young. And, I started out 20 years ago, more now, 22 years ago, and there were really no senior women. There was no one who was where I wanted to be. I never saw women with families doing what I was doing. And it was kind of scary. It was sort of like, well, where do I go? You can't see what you can't be, kind of thing, and be what you can't see, sorry. And I think this is why for all of us it's really important to do this, because I want to give women a better experience than I had kind of growing up in advertising. And I think having female role models that are really accessible is a huge part of that as well.
And related to the question, what is the most important piece of advice you would give to young women starting their advertising careers now?
Do you want to go first, Phoebe?
I think that's a great one. I think for me, and I was sort of, maybe this relates to the previous question, I think I kind of put on a bit of a facade or a bit of a front, and as I kind of get a little bit more experience in the industry, and the longer that I'm in it, it's kind of a strength to kind of embrace your quirks and who you are. And I think I'd encourage any mentee or any sort of young person coming to me to just say, just be yourself, take that deep breath, learn to sort of be comfortable in your own skin, and feel free to sort of, I guess, find your voice. I think I was quite quiet and meek and timid early on in my career. And I think, as I said, like the longer you spend here and the more comfortable you get and the more amazing people you get to work with, I think that kind of allows you to do your job a lot better. You're more creative, you're more comfortable to present, share your ideas. And I think, it's a confidence thing too. So I just sort of encourage that.
Yeah, I think there's so much great advice out there, and people have heard so much. I kind of try to tell them something that they might not have thought of, which is and maybe this is up because I'm a bit older as well. I think it's really important to aim for a long career as well as a great career. You know, sometimes we're a little bit short-term in our thinking, oh, I want to win awards, or I want to be a creative director, but you know, that might happen after 10 years in the industry, but you want to be in this industry for way longer than that. So you've got to play the long game, and that takes a certain amount of planning, but also a certain amount of pacing. I think it's really easy to burn out a little bit in this, because, you know, you're coming out of uni and all you're thinking about is, oh, I want to get the job. Then you get the job and there's another mountain to climb, or I want to win the pitch, or I want to win the award, or I want to get, you know, the promotion, but there's always another mountain to climb after that. And it's very hard if you've used all your energy climbing that first mountain to get to the top and peek over and then go, fuck me, there's 10 more mountains there. How am I going to do this? So you've got to pace yourself and manage your exhaustion levels, and get lots of sleep. You've got to sleep, because you can't be a good creative if you're exhausted and unhappy. So you've got to manage that and play the long game and rest the horses every so often.
Totally. That's like so much emphasis on like that sort of hustle. Like if it doesn't hurt, then you're not being a good creative, which is such bullshit, really. Yeah, no, I completely echo Phoebe's sentiment of just like lean into the weird, you know, especially I think now everyone wants to conform and wants to kind of like say the same thing over and over again. Like you need your weirdos in your creative department to really stand out. So yeah, it's just fostering that and making sure that they don't feel awkward for being their weird and wonderful selves.
Yeah, fly the freak flag high, because, you know, that's what people are hiring. Anyone can do ads if you train them, I believe. You know, if you practice, anyone can do ads. So what are you hiring really? What you're hiring is unique personalities, and you know, the more unique, the better.
Totally, and it's more fun as well.
Yeah, totally. That's why we're advertising, right? You're
like working in a yeah, exactly. Corporate circus.
And I read an article recently about how the pandemic is failing young employees starting their careers because of remote working and not having the chance of learning from their colleagues when sharing a space. Do you think the Aunties will be something that can help with this problem?
Yeah, we really hope so. I think it's tough enough starting out in your career, let alone sort of in a pandemic. There's, you know, what we've found just from our mentee applications over the past couple of weeks, that there's this real kind of, people are really wanting to learn those interpersonal skills, you know, face-to-face meetings, presenting work, folio reviews in person, you know, with creative directors, you know, those things, unfortunately, you know, haven't happened. You know, Melbourne has been the most locked down city in the world. So we're really craving those kind of face-to-face and in-person sort of catch-ups. And we hope the Aunties will be there to sort of provide that. And, you know, I guess, you know, I remember when I started out too, that I didn't know what normal was. And, you know, throw in, you know, the anxieties and uncertainties with a pandemic. And this leaves women vulnerable in so many different ways. And these circumstances were a huge part of why we wanted to set up the Aunties, so that we could provide support and we can help women who are finding their feet and you know, so they can have that objective opinion too, with an Auntie that exists outside their agency bubble. You know, that person that, you know, can call sort of bullshit, you know, if there's something going on that just isn't normal or isn't right. And, you know, because you don't sort of know any better when you start out, you think that everything is normal. So we hope that all of our mentees can kind of feel safe and comfortable confiding and having those sort of deeper chats that you may not be able to have with, you know, an employer and a co-worker. So yeah, for that reason, we hope the Aunties can help sort of post-pandemic sort of confidence and, you know, things like that, and also helping get jobs. You know, we need to sort of build that network up, and you know, we hope that the Aunties is almost a talent pool, you know, for agencies to kind of hire, you know, amazing women.
Yeah, I was wondering when we will be able to say post-pandemic, because I was going to ask what was being the biggest challenge for you in the pandemic, but I think the question is, what is being the biggest challenge for you in the pandemic? Because we are still there.
Yeah, I think I found it really strips our job back, because I think like part of the joy of our job is the human contact. And it almost makes the hard times easier when you've got people around you and you take that away. And our job can be very, very grim and very, very difficult, very, very trying. And so for me, I really felt the loss of the people. And so I had to really find ways to keep up that human contact, and obviously not by breaking lockdown or anything, but by, you know, just getting used to Zoom, getting used to trying to see people and talk to people as much as possible, and not drink too much wine for the, you know, instead of to make up for the lack of dopamine hits from seeing people all day long. It was, you know, it was a sad time. I hope it never happens again, because I don't think it's what we're about in advertising.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my experience of like the pandemic is very privileged, because, you know, I have a very comfy job that I can do from home, and I don't have, you know, kids or housemates to kind of, you know, negotiate in my daily life. So I think my personal struggles are probably like the existential variety. You know, you're given so much time to gaze into the abyss, and boy, did I gaze into the abyss. Especially, I think, like when it comes to our jobs in advertising, you know, it's like at times it can feel trivial. You know, do I really need to sell more toothpaste right now? Is this what the world really needs? But I think, like, especially at the start of the pandemic, there was like all the brands going out with exactly the same ad, you know, montage of empty streets, sudden like man voiceover being like, we're with you, we're here through all the hard times. But I mean, like, especially when I think someone like stitched them all together, it really just showed the sea of sameness that our industry is so, I guess, drawn to, you know, not in any conscious level, but that's kind of the stuff that we end up making most of the time. So yeah, I think I like what I really liked, you know, even in America, I think Uber started giving people like free rides to vaccinations, and like that's not like the sexiest thing to go out and say, but it is actually useful. And that's like, when the world is suffering to such a degree throughout the pandemic, like that's the role of a brand. I think it's not to make another montage ad with some hotshot celebrity somewhere. So yeah, I think that was my struggle, was like really trying to navigate the role of advertising in a pandemic.
And now talking about Australian creativity, do you think there is something particular about it, something that makes it immediately identifiable?
It's a good question. I think I think our, as a writer, like I think our dry sense of humor is pretty identifiable, even though our Kiwi friends probably sometimes do a better job of that. We hate to admit that. But no, it's sort of the I guess the cynicism and the sarcasm that we sometimes adopt in, you know, TV and radio. I think is quite Australian, and something that I enjoy when I look through the archives over the years and of Australian advertising. It's something I really enjoy, and sort of take a little national advertising pride in.
Australians, I think our humour is that we hate pretension. And so we love to laugh at pretension. You know, if you look at any great examples of really famous Australian work, it's kind of laughing at pretension. So, you know, things like the Carlton Draft big ad, it was laughing at British Airways pretentious ads. You know, I think Phoebe was saying that you one of your favourite ads is Dumb Ways to Die. And that's a kind of really unpretentious safety message. I think in Australia as well, like I think we have a much smaller population and usually much smaller budgets to match, and so we have to be a bit more clever and a bit more careful with what we have. So we definitely rely on things like humour and kind of coming at things from a weird perspective in order to get that cut through. Yeah.
Weird perspective, sure. I like that.
Down under your perspective.
Huei, you wanted to add something?
Oh yeah, I was just I agree. Like Australia has a pretty weird sense of humor. So I'm not from Australia, so it kind of took me a while to like catch on to it. But it's definitely self-deprecating, and you know, it's always like, this is what we are, and that's totally fine. Like it's like a very comfortable with who they are kind of vibe, which I think is quite refreshing when you look at global advertising sometimes, especially when you're you know, brands want to be your friend and not just a brand on the shelf. That's the kind of tone you should take.
And what is your all-time favorite Australian ad or campaign?
Well, I think Sarah just gave mine away.
Sorry.
Choose another one.
No,
Go on. Tell us why, Phoebes.
I love Dumb Wasted Eye. It came out too at a time when I was catching public transport in high school, like quite frequently. And I remember just hearing the song, seeing it play out on billboards, messages around the station. It was so big, and it was just so funny and witty and charming, and it just ticked every single box. And yeah, it still runs. It's a campaign that sort of has stood the test of time and is still relevant and is still enjoyed. And I think I would be very proud if I made a piece of work like that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's the campaign that never dies, is it?
No. My 5-year-old, it's not 10 or 15 years old now. My 5-year-old watches it now. He's just
Oh my God.
it. Yeah.
Amazing. Legacy.
Amazing. Funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is also a safety ad, and this is going to sound like a total plug for the agency that I'm currently at, but it's Graham by Clemenger BBDO. And the reason I like it is because it kind of plays in this weird role between like brand communication and like super weird fine art. It's about speculative futures. What does a future human body look like that's able to survive a crash? Apologies for my cat. It's instantly recognizable. Like, you remember when you'd see the thumbnails of everything that was nominated, like Graham is just so instantly recognizable as Graham. There's no mistaking what that homunculus was there for. And it's also like super weird, I think. So they partnered with a local artist here, Patricia Piccinini, who's very famous for very realistic kind of living hybrids creatures, I would say, like mole people and whatnot. And I think like that sort of weirdness can be definitely embraced by advertisers. There's such a magnetic draw to like pull everything down to the common denominator, to the average Australian, when I think like people are out there just wanting different. I kind of mentioned it before with the COVID ads. Like, there's a time when you just shut everything off because it's like, replace the logo in this and you all sound the same. Well, yeah, try to find another brand in which Graham will work for, and that'll be quite weird. But yeah, anyway, I just want to say that they could have made a montage ad featuring so-called real Australians, but instead they made a guy with 16 nipples named Graham.
Yeah, you couldn't feature Graham in a L'Oreal ad, could you? I don't think he'd be cast.
It would be interesting.
Hey, all bodies are beautiful, Phoebe.
Sorry.
And what about any recent Australian campaigns that have captured your attention?
I really loved, there was a campaign done here for flybys, and the tagline was "I give a flybys," but it's you might not know what flybys is overseas. It's like a reward program for when you do your shopping. You collect points, and it was kind of largely ignored here for many years, and they just did this. I can't even describe it to you. You just need to watch it. It's called I Give a Flybys, and it's so quirky and so funny, and it's just got the most incredible diverse casting in it, and I just love it. Like, when it came out, I probably watched it about 10 times, and with the subtitles on so I could catch every single word, and it's long as well. It's 3 minutes long, and I just adore it. It's just a great piece of work. So do yourself a favor. Have a look.
Do you reckon you could sing it, Sarah? Do you think you know it lyric for lyric?
Any other one
you
can think about? No.
I've got one, but Phoebe, would you like to?
No, Sarah took mine. Sarah's just.
I just took yours again. I didn't know.
You're so in sync.
No, we're so in sync. It's such a great campaign to echo Sarah. It's sort of like a spoken word music video, and there are these beautiful characters designed, and yeah, Sarah did a much better job of explaining it than I did. but it's definitely look it up, give a flybys, and it's beautiful and fun, and it's just joyful. I think joyful work, especially at the moment, is what we're all craving. And that the positivity, we need happy music, color, like we're just sort of craving feel good kind of ads at the moment.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it has that, like I was saying before, it has a real lack of pretension. Again, when you see it, like it's really is real people just kind of singing about real things. It's completely unpretentious, and it's just great for it.
Yeah, super well shot by Sanjay De Silva as well. Who knew you could bring so much joy to collecting points as you do your supermarket shopping. Mine is one actually that came out quite recently, which is called the Mohair Suit, which is for a charity here called Movember, which is all about men growing their mustaches out throughout the month of November to raise funds for men's health. It's actually been done by a couple of people here that actually contribute to the Aunties as well. So shout out to Kat and Lauren for their very hairy tailoring. So what they did was basically come up with this suit, like this, fancy tuxedo style suit, only that it's made out of real men's mustache hair. I think it's very interesting. It's definitely non-traditional, and it strikes people in a very visceral way. Like I know some people that get absolutely disgusted seeing human hair not attached to a body, which is kind of weird if you think about it. But the way that Kat and Lauren did it, I think, is beautifully crafted, and will start a conversation on several different levels, especially about men's health.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is a great piece. And you're right, the whole point of Movember is to start conversations. That's why instead of just giving money, you grow a thing on your face so that people talk to you. And to me, it was like taking that, the gem of that brand or charity, and making it into something new and talkable. It's a beautiful piece of work. I think it's going to be really famous around the world as well, which is always exciting when it's from Melbourne.
It's one of those pieces of work, we're all creatively jealous by. It's just weird. It's made headlines. It's just so quirky and original, and it's a piece of work everyone has in Melbourne certainly wishes that they've made right now. It's so cool, and it's come from two amazing aunties too. So look it up. Please look it up and support it.
I think Lauren was also behind the Flybuys campaign, so she's doing it.
Aunties everywhere. So you mentioned already a couple of things, but to wrap up, so after this pandemic, I don't know if I can say after, but what kind of awards or ideas or campaigns would you like to see this year?
I want to see more funny. Oh God, we all need a laugh. And it's I just feel like people are a bit scared to do humor at the moment. It just seems to have been dying a bit. I mean, I remember when I started out, Cliff Freeman and Partners in the States was doing so much, America was doing the funniest ads, and now it just seems like, as the guy said before, it's like every ad is sad and sort of pensive and plaintive, and I think we've got to get back to laughing. Like, we just need something to laugh at and just be a bit lighter and a bit more fun, and just not take ourselves so seriously. It's that's what I really want to see.
It's oh, sorry, Huei. Well, it's those I guess it's ads that are simple as well. I think we're all craving just those pure ads that have one message or one insight or one point to them. I think we're just being so bombarded at the moment with ads that have like two to five different messages on them, and and understandably clients are afraid to sort of commit to one message at the moment, or they want to have multiple messages in there. But I think it's the stuff that's really pure and really simple, and and drives those home in a really simple way, that it sticks. That stuff sort of sticks. It's sort of those pure ads, more print, more billboards. I think I'd love to see that when we're hopefully out in the world again. Just back to those sort of more simple, humble, I guess, advertising practices would be really, really nice.
Yeah. And for me, I guess, like, generally historically, when times get tough, the arts and creativity as a whole kind of veers to the absurd, to kind of just like make sense of this like pretty weird time that we've all experienced together. So I'm hoping as we move through and over the pandemic, that's the sort of tone that we take with us. Like, this is quite a rare occasion where we all have experiences of the pandemic as a collective and as individuals, that hopefully it spawns some pretty weird ads and pretty absurd things that we can start laughing about and finding a way to process this trauma together. So I'd like to see more comedically absurd and like actually genuinely useful roles for brands. Maybe I've spent too long in my living room here, but sometimes it can feel like we're just blowing budgets on things that, could be more helpful to the world in a different way. And it doesn't have to be like, over the top, like I said, with Uber giving rides for people to get vaccinated. It's not like the sexiest headline, but it is useful. So if Graham could give like people free rides to the pandemic, to the vaccines, I think that's like the perfect sweet spot for the future of advertising.
Bring him back.
Graham drives an Uber now,
In a Mohair Suit.
Great.
Nice. Singing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so
bye-bye
much.
song.
Thank you so much for sharing this time with us and for telling us about the Aunties, and all the best with the Aunties and these projects and everything you do this year.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Lucia.
you.
Thank you.